Tonight, I'm going to show you something that many of you were never supposed to hear. Something so disturbing that every trace of it was nearly erased from every platform in less than 24 hours. Because what if I told you that Yu Menglong, the man adored for his calm presence and soft-spoken charm, didn't just vanish, he fought. He fought with everything he had, right up to the very last moment. And that his final resistance wasn't a random act of panic, it was a calculated stand against something far darker than any of us imagined. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you're going to see why 17 individuals, all connected through one invisible thread, were involved in the night that changed everything. I first came across the footage 3 months ago. It wasn't clear at first, a grainy 27-second clip sent anonymously to my channel's encrypted inbox. The message said only 3 words: he didn't give up. When I opened it, my hands froze. The timestamp showed 2:43 a.m. The location tag: a restricted facility in downtown Beijing that officially does not exist. You can barely make out the figure in the corner of the room, disoriented, bruised, but standing. The outline, the posture, unmistakably Yu Menglong. Then the door opens. 1 or 2. Then 5 figures step in, each wearing identical dark coats. The rest of the clip cuts out before you see more, but in the background, you can hear him shouting something. It's faint, almost drowned out by the noise. But when I slowed the audio, I heard a phrase repeated twice: "Tell them the truth." That phrase haunted me. Because over the next weeks, everyone connected to that location was suddenly transferred, demoted, or went offline. It felt coordinated. And yet, deep down, I knew there had to be witnesses, people who saw what happened before the lights went out. So I started digging. I spoke to a technician who claimed he'd worked maintenance in the building. He told me the security feeds that night were rerouted to an external drive, a drive never logged in any official report. He said 17 people entered the building between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Only 16 were seen leaving. When I asked him who the 17th was, his face turned pale. He said, "You already know the answer." Then he hung up. His number stopped working an hour later. Now here's where it gets chilling. A neighbor from across the street, an elderly woman who often fed the stray cats outside, described hearing a loud, desperate voice echoing from the upper floor that night. She said it wasn't screaming, it was defiant. Like someone refusing to break. She said she counted several vehicles parked under the streetlight, black vans, no license plates. She remembered the smell of burning wires. But here's the strangest part: she said she saw someone else on the rooftop around 3:10 a.m. A man in a white hoodie holding what looked like a phone, recording. The next morning, every camera in the area stopped working. I had to know who that person was. After weeks of tracing digital footprints, I discovered an unlisted social media account registered to a film student who vanished 2 days after posting. "If they find this, tell my mother I did the right thing." His last upload. A 5-second clip showing a figure being dragged down a hallway. No audio. No context. But that figure, again, had Yu Menglong's build. And that's when it hit me: the 17 weren't random individuals. They were part of an internal recovery unit designed to silence high-profile personalities involved in confidential contracts. The moment Yu Menglong refused to sign a certain document, one that would have transferred ownership of a creative project to a government-backed group, his fate was sealed. He didn't just resist physically. He resisted symbolically. He refused to let his voice, his art, be repurposed for propaganda. You see, those who knew him best described him as gentle but stubborn. He once told a friend, "I'd rather vanish than pretend." That sentence, now, feels prophetic. Witnesses say when he realized what was happening, he pushed back. Literally. He tried to defend himself, using whatever he could: a chair, a light stand, anything near him. Reports suggest he managed to trigger a small fire alarm. That's why the sprinkler system went off for a few seconds. It was his final signal, his coded SOS. That alarm is the reason we even have partial footage. The automated system backed up the feed to an off-site server for diagnostics. But right after that, the line was severed. And from that moment, the story fractures. Officially he departed for medical evaluation. Unofficially, every trace of him was scrubbed within hours. Now, why would 17 people be necessary to handle one unarmed actor? When I looked at internal rosters leaked earlier this year, I found that the team was made up of mixed backgrounds. Some were security contractors, others former public relations managers, even 2 media editors. That's not an arrest team, that's an erasure team. Their job wasn't to confront, but to rewrite. To control the narrative before it even hit the public eye. And yet, something went wrong that night. The resistance lasted longer than expected. According to one digital forensic analyst I spoke to, the internal system recorded an unusual power surge lasting 8 minutes. The same 8 minutes during which the fire alarm was active. 8 minutes where Yu Menglong fought not just for his freedom, but for his truth. Here's what chills me most. Months later, a sealed memo surfaced on an encrypted forum. It was titled Protocol 17, Subject Refused Cooperation. The description fit perfectly. Within that memo, one line stood out. Containment compromised due to subject's verbal insistence on disclosure. Disclosure of what? Some insiders believe he had evidence linking influential investors to creative fund laundering through entertainment contracts. Others say he had recordings of private meetings that exposed favoritism at the highest levels. Whatever it was, the night of his resistance wasn't about a single man disobeying orders. It was about silencing what he knew. 4 days after the event, there was confusion online. Fan pages began disappearing. Old interviews were quietly re-edited. Mentions of certain film titles vanished from streaming platforms. And then, something strange happened. A new account appeared under the handle Truth43. It posted a single message. He said he would fight, and he did. No one knows who runs that account. But every time someone tries to take it down, it comes back, same name, same message. Almost like a digital ghost refusing to be silenced. If you ask me, Yu Menglong's story is no longer just about what happened to him physically. It's about what he represented, an artist's resistance in a world that demands obedience. He knew what was coming, but he still chose to speak. Those 17 people may have succeeded in removing him from the public eye, but they couldn't remove the echo he left behind. Every rumor, every deleted clip, every whispered conversation that starts with "Did you hear about that night?" That's his resistance still living on. Now, I want you to imagine this. The lights are off, the room is cold, and 17 shadows surround you, but you still choose to say, tell them the truth. That's courage. That's legacy. And that's why his story refuses to die, even when the evidence does. I can't verify every detail, and maybe that's the point. The truth exists somewhere between the erased footage and the whispers that survived. But every time a new piece surfaces, a timestamp, a blurred screenshot, a forgotten witness, the puzzle builds itself again. They wanted silence. Instead, they created an echo too loud to bury. So as you watch this video, I want you to remember, stories like this don't just disappear because someone says they should. They survive because people like you keep asking questions, keep digging, and keep sharing. Because maybe, just maybe, the real power isn't in erasing a person, it's in how many refuse to forget them. Now I'll ask you, what do you believe happened that night? Was Yu Menglong silenced for what he knew? Was his resistance a message to all artists under pressure to conform? Or, is there more we still don't see behind the number 17? When I told you that Yu Menglong didn't go quietly, I meant it. But what if I told you that during those final 8 minutes, something happened inside that room that completely shattered the control of those 17 people? You're about to hear what insiders described as the most chaotic, unplanned, and terrifying confrontation ever caught on that facility's hidden feed. Because this wasn't a calm arrest. This was a battle of willpower, one man against an entire system. The leaked report called it a failure of compliance procedure. But that's a polite way of saying everything went wrong. When the 17 entered, they expected obedience. They expected silence. What they didn't expect was resistance. According to one anonymous technician who watched the live feed before it was shut down, Yu Menglong had already sensed something was off hours earlier. He had moved the furniture in the room strategically, one chair near the door, another close to the window. Almost as if he'd been preparing. When the first wave of shadows entered, He stood his ground, calm, but alert. They told him it would be a routine meeting. He replied, "Then why the masks?" That one sentence, "Then why the masks?" caused the first hesitation. He wasn't panicking. He was testing them. The technician said you could see him glance toward the small red light of the camera. He knew he was being recorded. And that's when it began, his final performance, his final message. He kicked the chair backward, hard enough to block the doorway. A metallic crash echoes through the feed. Someone shouts. Then, chaos. He shoves the table forward, not to escape, but to buy seconds. He knew they'd rush him, but every second meant another frame the camera captured. Another proof of what was happening. The sprinkler alarm triggers. Water sprays everywhere, creating a blinding mist. That mist, that's what saved the footage. It refracted the infrared sensors, delaying the auto-deletion signal. 8 minutes. That's all it recorded. Now, imagine this scene. The floor is slick. The lights flicker. The air is filled with confusion and commands. One voice shouts orders. Another pleads. And in the center, Yu Menglong refuses to kneel. One insider said he wasn't shouting for himself. He was shouting for others. Repeating, "Tell them the truth. Tell them what you saw." What truth? That's the mystery. But his defiance, it wasn't random rage. It was a message. A signal to anyone who'd one day find this footage. He wasn't just fighting them, he was fighting for us to remember. As the feed continues, you see flickers of movement, someone trying to grab him from behind, but slipping. Another tries to stun him, but the mist short-circuits the device. You can hear someone curse in frustration. And then, faintly, Yu's voice, calm again, saying, "You're not recording this for them. You're recording this for history." That line still gives me chills. Because when investigators later reviewed the scrambled file, they realized the footage had duplicated itself into a separate partition, one not connected to the internal network. Almost like someone inside the system wanted to preserve it. Was it you? Or someone watching from the control room? No one knows. But that rogue copy became the seed of this entire mystery, the reason we can still piece together fragments of those 8 minutes today. After the alarm went off, the building's outer cameras recorded several unidentified vans repositioning. Backup lights flared through the window. You can see one figure being restrained near the exit, another standing still, possibly one of the original 17 refusing to continue. That's right. One of them might have switched sides. Sources from inside claim that out of the 17, one refused to sign the post-operation report. That individual later disappeared, too. What did they see? What made them question the mission? It suggests that Yu Menglong's resistance wasn't just physical, it was psychological. It shook something inside the very people sent to suppress him. And here's where it gets even stranger. An encrypted voice note surfaced weeks later, supposedly from one of the cleanup crew. The message was just 14 seconds long, distorted, full of static, but one line was clear. He smiled when the lights went out. Think about that for a second. He smiled. He knew he'd done what he came to do, left a trace, an unerasable mark. Because in every system built on fear, courage is the loudest form of rebellion. And maybe that's why his story still resonates today, not because of what they did to him, but because of how he refused to surrender even when he knew it was over. People ask me, why does this story matter? It's just one person. But I say, no, it's not just one person. It's every artist who ever signed something they didn't believe in. Every actor who smiled for a camera while dying inside. Every truth-teller who was told to be quiet. Yu Menglong's resistance wasn't about physical survival. It was about refusing to let them control his narrative. And even though 17 people were sent to erase him, not one could erase the echo of his final act. Because the moment he said, "Tell them the truth," he handed that responsibility to all of us. So, here's what I want you to think about tonight. If you were in his position, facing the impossible, surrounded, silenced, would you fight back? Would you risk everything just to make sure the truth lived one more day? And what do you think he really meant when he said, "You're recording this for history"? Was it a warning, or a prophecy? Drop your thoughts below. I want to read your theories, every single one of them. And don't forget, if you believe stories like this need to be told, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Because your engagement keeps this investigation alive, and your voice makes sure no truth ever stays buried. Remember, they erased the footage. But they didn't erase the questions. And questions are how revolutions begin.